Welcome to Healing Echoes. Today we have with us Daisy Papp. Daisy was born and raised in Germany and speaks three languages fluently. She has spent a lifetime helping others. In fact, some state that Daisy is the world's best kept secret. Daisy founded Self-Recoding in 2008, the secret recipe for healing the past, clearing the present, and generating a predictable future in the shortest amount of time. Daisy has extensive experience through years of extraordinary training in the fields of NLP, EFT, energy psychology, and other modalities from world-known psychologists, neuroscientists, and leaders in the coaching industry. The project, Together We Are Strong, is supported by the Daisy Papp Mindset Evolution Foundation, founded in 2022. Daisy has a proven track record and has spent hundreds of hours conducting seminars and workshops. She has helped individuals, couples, world champions, and Fortune 500 CEOs on all continents, showing an unrivaled commitment to her profession with more than 10,000 hours of one-on-one sessions completed. Her books have been sold in more than 50 countries. Daisy brings her expertise to the Bald and Blonde podcast that she produces. Together with the renowned bald warrior, Kathy Tate from Australia, they are embracing the globe and helping millions of listeners in 99 countries change their lives through mindset evolution, which is the focus of the podcast. Daisy Papp now lives in the sunny Florida Keys and just released her newest book, 5+2, The Formula for Life. Daisy was a signed artist with EMI Music as a singer and songwriter. Her music is aired on radio stations in Europe and the US. Her visual art is exhibited in prestigious art fairs and museums around the United States and collected by art connoisseurs with private collections around the globe. She empowers humans from around the globe and is bringing awareness to promote human values to build strong societies that care. How are you doing?
Well, after you reading this or seeing this, I feel, wow, do I know this woman?
You're quite accomplished. That's awesome.
Yes, it was a wild journey.
Yeah.
And I appreciate your acknowledgement. I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. I appreciate your invitation to your podcast.
Of course. So you said it perfectly. It's been quite a journey. So I'd like to start the conversation with you just talking about kind of where you started out from and your own personal story.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I will make it as short as I can. And put as much information in there as possible. Well, I was born and raised in Germany. My mother was from Hamburg, so North Germany, and my father was Hungarian from Budapest. Yes. And they met in the southwest of Germany, and I'm the fruit of their love. And I had a wonderful, wonderful childhood. To that, I almost switched to a different language where my childhood is there. See how the brain works.
Oh, yeah.
And my father wanted to bring his parents back to their home country, Hungary. Mm-hmm. And I was supposed to go with them. And last minute, my dad said, no, you stay at home with your brother. And that night they had an accident and my mom was the only survivor. So my grandparents and my father died. And that sort of brought some survivor's guilt. But back in those days, no one really spoke about that. And no one really thought, okay, maybe this little girl, 8 years old, maybe needs some help. So I started going into music and I composed music. That was the only way how I could express what was in there within me that I had no words for. Right. And then mom came back after almost 6 months of being in a hospital and enduring 32 plus surgeries. And because 32, and then later on, she had some more after being out of the hospital, and life was never the same again. Yeah. And so my mom made a decision that she's going to focus on the livelihood of the company to ensure our livelihood. Yeah. And so I went to boarding school when I was 10 and a half. And that was lovely because it was described, yes, oh, it's beautiful. You go to boarding school, it's a castle and it's lovely. Well, it really looks lovely. It is not so lovely from the inside because there's lots of corruption going on. There are gangs there are specific groups that bully the other group. So it's very interesting. I was very early confronted with that and realized that, so when you have a last name that sounds like this, then you're better off than when you have a last name that sounds like that.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't really want to focus on the unjust because I couldn't change it. So I did the best I could, and I developed my artistic veins, so to say, and I very much enjoyed that. And then after school, my mom wanted to send me to Great Britain, and I didn't like the idea of that because, first of all, I already spoke English quite well, and also I didn't like that it's raining there so much. And so I'm a sunny girl. I like the sun, and I like the sun in my heart, and I like the sunshine on my body as well, and in my environment. And so I chose to go to Hungary because I wanted to learn my father's mother tongue, because he didn't teach that language at home. And I wanted also to ride horses because I was quite gifted when it came to horses, and I grew up with horses, and that was my area where I wanted to expand: breeding horses, riding horses, and riding the Olympic Games for a country, and in dressage. So that's not where you do show jumping, but where you sit nicely and the horse looks almost like it's dancing. And then while I was there, I was very happy. It was one of the most beautiful times in my life, looking back around that time. That changed then later on. And my mom calls me and she says, "Oh yeah, we have a celebration at the company, and I'd like you to come and read the poems I wrote for every employee." And I said, "Okay, fine." So I bought a ticket. I sat on the plane, and I was the surprise guest, 17-year young. And my brother was so proud of me. My godfather was so proud of me, and that was really lovely. And next day they wanted to fly out to Geneva, and I was allowed to go with them. So I was really excited and happy, and oh, cool. I mean, flying with my brother and my mom and my godfather to Geneva cannot get any worse. And it was winter, it was nice. The snow was very nice. The area is beautiful there in Switzerland, unless it's foggy. And last minute on Saturday morning, when they left the house, my mom turns towards me and says, "It's so stressful. You stay at home, and you know what? One day I hang the family business on a nail." That's where the link to the nails come. I didn't know that for 20 years, or for 15, approximately 20 almost. So they flew out. I had a lovely weekend, and on Monday night they were supposed to come back, and they crashed within 5 minutes after takeoff. And I became an orphan. And then, of course, I felt amputed, physically amputed, although it was my psyche and my heart and my soul that was amputed. And well, it was a challenging time. I went to business school then. That was something that absolutely was not up my aisle, and it's just not really, I'm not enthusiastic enough about that. And then I wanted to belong again, not having family. I wanted to belong. So I married, and that was my escape. That didn't change, and it didn't allow me to escape from the pain that I held within. And then I got very sick, and people didn't know what was wrong with me, doctors in several countries. And because at that time, it was not so common to think of psychosomatic things that can go on between the body mind. And so for years it was really, really challenging time. And then happy ending approaching, or happy end approaching, that a girlfriend of mine at the time, she was an older lady, she could have been my mom, and she was interested in speaking about alternative doctor approaches, and she heard of a lady that is really, really good. And so she made an appointment for me. She drove me there. I didn't even drive the car at that time. I was too weak. And I go in there, and she does something with me. And while she's doing whatever she's doing, what a doctor does with a human, and she's talking to me, and something really weird happened. I got out of that office, and for the first time, I felt lighter, and I felt better. And I said, "I have no idea what you just did, but that's exactly what I'm going to study." It took a while. It was actually an NLP session that she did with me while she cared for my body. NLP standing for neuro-linguistic programming. And I was very hungry for learning that. And everyone who was not fast enough to escape the door, I wanted to practice, right? And everyone.
Mhm.
And then I realized, sometimes it works really well, and sometimes I don't get results. Why is that? So I remained hungry, and I continued studying other modalities, tapping modalities. In the very beginning, they were called TFT, Thought Field Therapy by Callahan, and then later on EFT. And there are different modalities now that have to do with meridian tapping.
Right.
And that was really a breakthrough. And then I realized, that's still not it. And I continued like a vacuum cleaner for knowledge. So I wanted to know it all.
Yeah.
And that led me to 2008 to found self-recoding, because I wanted to give it a name that is not something that I give or I do on someone. Who am I?
Right.
But I want to empower you. I wish to empower humans so they can recode themselves, therefore self-recoding.
Yeah,
And then fast forward in 2020, my dear Kathy Tate from Australia, at that time she was in Bali, and she found me. And it's very important that I state that, because she's very, very particular, and it's important to her, and I respect that. And it's true, she connected with me, and she wanted to produce a podcast. I wanted to produce a podcast since 2017. Nevertheless, I knew that I don't want to do interviews.
Right.
What I wanted to do, I didn't want to be interviewed either. And I didn't want it to be a preach, sort of like, okay, it's a solo cast. And then I was waiting to be found, apparently, and that is what happened. And we love what we do, and we're producing this week episode 185 or something like that.
Wow, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, it's like the pieces finally came together. You were waiting. You might not have known it at the time, but you were waiting for the right match.
Yes. And I think it is the energy also that we tune into. Frequencies are very important. I learn more and more about frequencies. I was very interested in frequencies and water feeding. So feeding information to water in 2006, 2007, and ever since. And I feel that it is important that we tune in to the frequencies, because then it's like tuning forks. What do I resonate with? Because the regular tuning fork is usually tuned to an A, which is 440 hertz, in that, and then so you ding, hit it on the edge of your desk, for example, and then it resonates. If there's anywhere else in the room a freestanding also tuned to a tuning fork, then that starts resonating. So therefore, when I shift my frequencies and my hertz, and their modalities where I have no idea how it works, but I know it does work, and therefore I use it. And it's like my cell phone. I have no idea how it really works, but I use it.
You just know that it does.
And it does, and I use it, exactly. Yeah. So I like to inspire that it's not the outside world, it's not the environment, but it's us. And then the environment changes.
Yeah, I truly believe that as well. And then I know when I was reading your bio, we had I had mentioned that you're an author. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, so I think I started writing my first book when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And of course, handwriting, because my brother, he was able to use a typewriter. I didn't really like that. It was too hard for my tiny fingers. And so I wrote by hand, and then maybe page 7 or 8, I didn't really feel interested in it anymore. Nevertheless, it never left me. And I knew that I'm going to write books. And in 2011, I wrote an autobiography that is never published yet, because it requires for me to be 6 months really somewhere else, and also mentally somewhere else, and that time will come. And then in 2016 I started to write the 5+2, the formula for finding true love. Now that happened because a client of mine told me in 2013, because she got amazing results through that. And she said, after she got introduced to the 5+2, she said, Daisy, you must write a book about that. And I don't do well when people tell me what I must. So I try to avoid, and no, that's fine. But I work with clients from around the world, and it's just very interesting that it appeared to be universal. So no matter if somebody's the business approach, or somebody wants to increase the quality of the relationships in family communities, or the intimate relationship, it works every single time. And then I realized, okay, so I'm going to sit down and write that. I wrote it in 6 weeks.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't do anything else. I mean, I was breathing the words that I wrote. I have no idea how I was able to do that. The longer part, or the more exhausting and extensive work, is actually the formatting and publishing process. And I wish that sooner would be better for me. I'd really appreciate that I have somebody who's taking care of the publishing part, because it takes way too much energy from me.
Oh yeah.
But nevertheless, so I wrote that book. It's over 300 pages and it's super complicated. And I realized in 2017, I wrote another book, the island model, which is actually a metaphor. It has nothing to do with me living on an island, actually physically here in South Florida, but it is a psychological metaphor from a psychologist and management trainer, world-known lady. She passed in the meantime, Vera Birkenbier. And she had this model where she said, okay, so as a metaphor, you live in an island. I know grammatically that's not correct, but you live in an island, and in that island is all that stuff, the good, the bad, the ugly, that you've experienced, that you wished for, the dreams that popped, and the disappointments, and so forth. And wherever you go, you cannot just leave that island, but you take it with you. And after her passing, I further developed that concept, and that ended up being a book published in 2017. And then I published another one. I don't even remember when that was. What's the name of it? Software Update for Your Mind. I had to peek on my on my bookshelf.
I feel it.
And then I went over the beginning of the microbe crisis, 2020 March. I realized, so this is not really going well. So how can I contribute that it's going better? And I mean, I'm little, I'm not a huge giant something, but I think my brain works quite well. And I called an acquaintance of mine in Texas. He's a great, great man, and he's very helpful. He does a lot of work with South America, and he helps children and teenagers and young business entrepreneurs. And I called him and I said, so what do I do now? And he says, rewrite the island model for the 21st century for this situation. And I did. And then that was quite interesting. And I knew that the 5+2 would have impacted what happened globally since 2020, March, January, February. Actually, it started already in 2019, September, when you look at it, but it was not in the open. And I spoke to several people who are epidemiologists, attorneys, worldwide, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and humanitarian people, so that they do humanitarian work. And they agreed that if the 5+2 would have been around and public around that time, then it would have never happened. 2020 would have never happened the way it did.
Yeah.
And I understood then, okay, so it's beautiful to write a really big book, which is very complicated, but I'm losing audience because we don't have the time. If someone hands me nowadays a book, 300+ pages, I said, thank you, maybe in little parts, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, I'm going to have a look at it. Now, the 5+2, the big book, is also emotionally challenging because it helps you to face yourself and realize and notice and recognize your patterns. And then I thought, okay, so actually what's the next plan? I'm going to chapter by chapter and publish a new book, for each chapter from the 5+2. And then I realized, no, okay, teenagers, we're in trouble because that's the new generation and they will be the next generation parents and so forth. So how do I get the 5+2 so simple that they will know how to use it and how to choose relationships, how to choose themselves better, and how to identify with human values instead of falling for the bully. And I think we did it quite well. It was again, it was easy to write, was not so easy to illustrate. And then the publishing is just, again, takes months and months and months, but the book is out. We're currently in the process publishing it in Spanish and in German.
Oh, that's
language.
Nice.
So, but in English, we published it last month, and it's well, it's going well, and I do believe that it's life-changing. I have the feeling, though, that a lot of adults will be reading that, young adults and old ones as well, because it's super simple and it makes so much sense. And once you increase your standards, you shift your standards, you level up, your life will never be the same. And that is, well, I'm looking forward to bring it to universities and high schools and you know, to the 6th graders and 7th and 8th graders. And well, I'm here, so whoever calls me, I'm happy to serve.
Trying to make that outreach for sure. I think that's awesome. Obviously, in the show notes, I'll have all of them linked
Thank you.
so that people can find them. I'm already like searching so that I can read them. But in summing it up, what is your message for the people that might be listening today?
Focus on human values, because they allow for love. I'm not talking romantic love. I'm talking the love. And I do believe that human values are endangered, and I'm promoting them. And when you start knowing, okay, what are human values? What are the human values that you value? Then you will feel valued. Therefore, you will be very valuable in the way how you behave with other humans, and then you will be able to value other humans. And then when you treat them with values, then they feel valued and they value you back. And all of a sudden, so many things just stop existing. It's so simple. It is so easy. Human values is the key. Behavior is all that matters.
And when you all in harmony,
yeah, absolutely. And behavior is always a choice that you can choose how to behave. And with the 5+2, it's so simple, because there's so many people who say yes, and then you need to tune in. Great, but how to? It must be simple. In the 21st century, I do believe in simplicity. So simplicity, human values, 5+2, and you're good to go.
That's beautiful, and it's powerful. I love that. What is the easiest way for people to reach you or get in touch with you and what you do?
Well, the easiest is go to daisypapp.com, DAISYPAPP.com. You find the podcast there, you find self-recoding there, you find the foundation there, you find my books there, you find all sort of goodies. And there are complementary downloads. For example, Let There Be Light. I think this is also a good idea, because based on a study from Kassel, University in Kassel in Germany from 1996, there was a study that they were looking at the light photons that the heart emits. And with a specific focused meditation, I don't like the word meditation, it's overused, but, but with a specific thought process and breathing technique combined, you can 5,000-fold increasing the light photons that emit from your heart. And I think that is very good. And that's for everyone can download it and can use it. There are instructions on there. It's, I think, in 4 languages, in English, Spanish, German, and Hungarian.
Oh, wow.
So
that's awesome.
You can have that. There are a lot of goodies to be found. And
awesome.
It's to support you.
Yeah, definitely. I always love when there's like the downloadable things for people. It's very clear in what you do, and the fact that you do it in multiple languages. Obviously, you yourself speak multiple, but the fact that you're offering what you're giving to people in ways that makes it accessible for them really shows that your drive is to better other people. And I love that.
Well, I want to support them, because I believe that humans are good, but when they are disconnected from self, ego, by the way, that's also totally misused. Totally misused, because when you look at the origin of the word ego, what it really means, it means self. So how it is used today is, I think, misleading. Oh yes, your ego. Well, yourself. So when we become friends with ourselves again, based on human values that we appreciate and cherish and live by, then we can wake up in a totally different society in a very short amount of time.
Yeah, I can only hope for that everybody
Well,
hears this and reaches out and does
thank
the
you.
learning.
Well,
Yeah.
it's so simple, really.
Yeah.
The book, it takes you maybe 35 minutes to read when you're an adult and fast reader, maybe even
Wow.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I believe that it's very important that we not only go to the children, but also to the educators and the parents. So
Yeah.
that must be a combined effort.
Yeah.
And yes, so that's why I have a foundation. So if anyone is interested in supporting the foundation to translate these books, especially the smaller ones, into, I think Russian is a very important language nowadays because it's totally misunderstood. Ukrainian, I think Hindi is a very big language that would be very helpful to translate into. Then I think Portuguese will be very beneficial to translate it, because by population, then Mandarin would be absolutely important. And I speak from all the languages that are out there. Let's go to Arabic.
Yeah.
And let's have it there, because why exclude?
Yeah, exactly.
Look, I do believe that we are more alike than we like to admit. And I mean, there's also proof for it.
Yeah.
That on an atomic level, I mean, atoms. Oh, wow, you're made up of atoms? Oh, your figuration is a little different than mine. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I'm made up of atoms as well. So then what are we fighting against one another? Isn't it time to build bridges? I mean, come on. In the 21st century, especially with the technology that we have, that we can spread the word far and wide and can translate. And so, well, whoever feels like they want to volunteer or post on our behalf, I'd love that. And we need help, because I'm one human.
Yeah.
And I know together we're strong. And back to the nails, by the way, that my mom said that she's going to hang the family business on a nail. That's a German saying that translates to I'm throwing the towel or I'm hanging the gloves.
Oh.
And I started creating art with nails. And I had no idea why I was so drawn to nails until really, I think maybe 15 years later, I realized I look at the very first nail art painting that I did. It's huge, it's big, and it's heavy. It's like 100 pounds or something.
Oh, wow.
Because I use big nails. 8-centimeter long nails are actually my favorite length and shape. And then I realized I was sitting at the piano, and it dawned on me. Now I know why I love nails, because they honor my mom's last words. And fast forward last year, 2022, in summer, I created a piece of art for humanity. It's called Together We Are Strong. And it is 1 meter by 1 meter. I think that's 36 by 36 inches. I'm not so good. I'm better with centimeters, because that's what I grew up with.
And they make more sense anyways.
Yeah, the decimal makes it easier somehow, right? And there is the figure of a human with their arms up. And it's made up of so many nails. So please, whoever wants to start counting them. And at the torso of that image, the nails get looser and looser, meaning so they're more spare. There's more space in between. And it shows that every nail represents a human. And it shows when we come together, we are strong.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah. I can share with you a video link where I'm not sure if I shared that with you.
You might have. Either way, just make sure that I have it, and I
will make sure,
because I definitely want to see it.
Yes.
And I'd love for everyone else to see it too. I think you as a person and what you're doing, your drive, are absolutely beautiful things. And I just want to tell you, thank you for coming on and sharing it with us.
I thank you for your interest and for giving me a platform where what we do can be heard. Thank you.
Absolutely.